Good morning, Alaa. How are you today?
Morning, John. How are you? All good, thank you.
Excellent. Great to hear. And it's absolutely fantastic to have you take part in our CTO News Thursday vlog episode. Really looking forward to learning about your amazing career to date, from what I've learned, and also reveal media and the great things that you're doing within the security space. So, without further ado, please could you introduce yourself to our audience and we can dive into the questions.
Sure. I'm Alaa Abouzeid. I'm the VP of Software and Firmware Engineering at Reveal. I've made a career out of working with computers. I fell in love with them when I was at a very young age, like 6 or 7. I was fascinated with that machine that is basically it's just a box with some wires and you can type in some commands and some things and then things come to life and it's like you're making something out of nothing. So from that young age, I was like, I need to work with this for the rest of my life. I love it. Um, I studied computer engineering. I did then masters in software engineering. Started my career as a normal start, as a junior developer, and then went through the ranks as a team lead, head of the software department, and then finally as the VP. It's been quite a journey. Really learned a lot. It's amazing to progress from like working on your own and building your thing to kind of building the team and seeing them grow and working with them and nurturing them and delivering things that really make an impact and an effect on the customers.
Amazing. Absolutely, and thank you for sharing. I think, on our sort of one-to-one discussions we've had, I was absolutely fascinated to learn how you came over to the UK. And I just wondered if you could just share just a snippet of that environment with our audience.
Sure. So I was just saying, I was studying computer engineering in Egypt, in Cairo, where I was from, in Cairo University. It was really amazing courses. As I said, I was already in love with it, but it made me fall in love with it even more. Gaining hands-on programming experience and knowledge about the object-oriented programming and all the methodologies. I also learned about hardware and logic circuits and all of that. And I was, I always had kind of in my mind was my career would be that I would work for one of these big multinationals in Cairo, and then from there on, I would be moved to the headquarters in the original country or whatever. So I always kind of saw my career as kind of like migrating to another country. But interestingly enough, it happened in the opposite order. So when I was finishing my university, I was sitting with my dad one evening, and he was like, "Okay, what are you gonna do afterwards? Why don't you go to the UK and do a master's in software engineering to kind of to learn even more and put you ahead of the competition?" And then see what happens after that. Come back and you start your career. I was like, yeah, fine. Like let's go live a year abroad, learn a new culture. All of that. So I went to Kingston University. I liked their course because they had software engineering with management studies. So I like that it has a business aspect to it. That's how I came to the UK. I was doing my master's in there, and I did my thesis as a sponsored project by Reveal at the time. That was like in 2011. So I was working a lot with them. I was going at least once a week to the office, sitting with them, working their products. And by the end of the master's, I was sitting with the CEO and he offered me the job. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like that's how I, continued or started my career with Reveal and continued my stay in the UK. And I've been here since then.
Amazing, absolutely fantastic, and congratulations, and thank you for sharing that with us. You know, so for those who are less familiar, could you give us a brief overview of Reveal Media and explain how your solutions are making an impact in sectors like policing, retail, and beyond?
So Reveal Media, we basically design and manufacture body-worn cameras. So, which are used by frontline workers like the police. That's how it all started, to be honest, the whole industry of body-worn cameras. So basically, it's a small camera that they wear on their vest. They wear it while they are working in the shift, while they're going around in the working in the streets or going for a stop and search or for an arrest. And the idea is that it's like an independent witness that is watching their interactions. They start recording when they are speaking with any member of the public, when they're going for arrest or when they're doing interviews. So everything is recorded, audio and video. This gives kind of, as I said, an independent point of view of what's happening. It's not biased. It's not, on any one side. But the fact that it's there, it makes everyone behave in the most professional manner. So for the police, they kind of tends them to follow the standards a bit more. They know that everything is recorded, but it also knows that it's there. So that's kind of in protection for the members of public, but also for the members of public when they see they're being recorded. And that's the beauty of our kind of body cameras, is that it has a front-facing screen. So you're wearing the camera like this, and it has a screen. And when you are being recorded as one of the public, you can see yourself on the screen. So you see, oh, I'm being recorded. So then you start behaving better. You start, being self-conscious of what you're doing, which is great, because then that means that they would behave better. The whole thing would be de-escalated. The whole point is that we want to get to a point where we reduce the abuse, we reduce the any aggression, any violent behavior. So if the camera is there and you see it and you're self-conscious of your behavior, then you start to cool down. You start, so it de-escalates. That's the great thing about it. And it also helps if it's used as evidence of these videos. So if the videos are recorded, and then one of the person, let's say it was in an arrest, and the arrested person says, oh, they used excessive force with me, then the video is there to document that, to say yes or no. And that really helped in a lot of situations. And we got that from like sitting with the police officers when they say, I've had this complaint against me, that when I was using excessive force, and because there was the video there, it was seeing the video, and then it was like, oh yeah, you followed the standards, you followed the practice, you didn't do anything wrong, so you're off the hook, basically. Otherwise, it would have been their word against theirs. It would have taken months in investigation and all of that. And at that time, that officer is basically suspended from work. So in some ways, it kind of saved some careers as well. And this is where I came in with the, as you can imagine, all these videos, once they are recorded, they need to be stored somewhere and cataloged and added metadata to it and all of that. And this is where I was working on the evidence management software. That's how I started at Reveal. So I was handling the software side of the evidence management, where we want to make a simple, intuitive software that basically takes all the videos that you have recorded and stores them securely. We want to make sure that we don't lose any video, because that video at this point is considered as evidence. So you don't want to lose, imagine going to a crime scene, you lose a gun or something that you get from the crime scene. You can't lose these things. So how you make it secure, how you make it reliable, it's always up and running. At any point you want to go and look at any of the video evidence, you can get there. And you want to get there in the easiest way possible. Like, this is not their day job to go and look at videos. So you want to get them from the point where I want to find the video to the point where I can use the video as evidence in the least amount of steps possible, which is a very interesting problem, because you want to create a very intuitive, simple to use software, which is, that's what we're working on, is like how we can make your experience as easy, as great as possible. So that's what we do at Reveal, and it's been quite a journey. Been with them for 14 years, working, as I said, started with the police, but recently, which is the interesting bit, we started looking at the different markets. So we started noticing a lot of abusive behavior in retail environment, especially and environments where they didn't sign up for the aggression. Like in police, they are expected to have some aggression and interaction like that with the member of public. But if you're working in a shop, you're not expecting that. And I don't know if you noticed that in recent times, especially after COVID, when people are saying, like you go into shops and they say, we won't tolerate any abusive behavior. That wasn't there all the time. That's kind of, I don't know what happened, but people became more aggressive or whatever. So we started looking at how we can use the cameras into these environments, especially that it has this de-escalation factor. And we did some trials with some retail environments, and it was amazing the results that we saw. Like um, in some cases, there was reduction of incidents, of abusive incidents, between 40 and 70% after the cameras were deployed, which is huge, So
Absolutely.
that really affected or made a positive impact on the welfare and the well-being of the employees. That they're not going to work feeling, oh, I'm going to be abused today. No, the camera really helps them, and also it helps in stock loss because when people also are coming in to steal or to do any of that, they notice the cameras are around, people are wearing them, they're going to be recorded. Then they start behaving better. They say, okay, this shop is not for me. I'm not going to stay with it. And we've had, interestingly enough, that we deployed the cameras with one of the big retailers, and they had a massive stock loss reduction. But their competitor had a massive increase because basically the people who are going in that store to steal, they don't go in there anymore because the cameras are there. So they went to the other one. So then the other one came to us and said, okay, now I need to deploy the cameras as well because I can't get that spy because of the other one. So we're now deploying with the other one. So it's just great to see these kind of, it's not great obviously to have stop loss, but it's great to see the impact of something that you're working on, how it has such a good impact on the community, on the people who are working, on their well-being. It's really rewarding, and that's what keeps us going at Reveal. Like feeling that we have really good impact on people.
Brilliant. Really great to hear. And it's really just, fantastic to learn about, the different environments that you're catering for, plus sort of greenfield environments. In essence, the cameras are sort of enhancing safety, transparency, and accountability on all parts, which is a really great thing to see.
You know
Fantastic.
what? When it was really interesting as well, another market that we never thought of, sports.
Mm,
Um, Interestingly, I didn't know this, but in like we started a trial with the English FA that in the football grassroots, the referees are usually like volunteers. So they come in to, on Sunday league or whatever, and they come in and we've when we ran the numbers and we looked at the stats, 9 out of 10 of referees have been verbally abused, and 60% of them get verbally abused every 2 games. That's crazy.
mm.
You wouldn't think that this is happening with such high frequency. And we had a trial with the FA as well that the referees, when they are, refereeing the game, they would be wearing the cameras. And also, like the results came in, it was amazing how much of reduction just being the camera being worn and the fact that the person who's going to abuse their feet, they can see, oh, I'm going to be recorded now, then how their behavior changed. We've then started trials in other many different sports like in Canada and in Australia and in the US, and it's just really interesting market. You never thought of that something like this would be like they would be getting that much abuse, but it is what it is. But it's great to see how the cameras can make a difference.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's going to be, many more markets and sectors that you're going to tap into with those sort of grassroots underlying challenges that requires constant monitoring using, security videos and things like that. So that's really great to hear. Fantastic. So when you first joined Reveal Media, you were involved in full development lifecycle. So everything from assessment to design, testing, support, customer interaction. How did that broad responsibility shape your approach to engineering and leadership?
Um, Well, it's you said, like when I started at Reveal, I was just started straight out of uni, basically out of masters. So for me, you either have one of two ways. Most people would go in, like you start a junior developer role and just working on your tasks that come assigned to you, and that's it. I was lucky enough that the team was small enough that I would be involved in all these aspects. And so I was doing as like the system design. I was then working in the implementation of it, developing it, and then I was testing it, I was deploying it, and I was supporting it. I would go in front of customers to present the solution and work with them to understand what are their needs, what is the environment that they're having that we're going to deploy in, how we're going to tweak the software to work in their environment. I was talking to end users to understand their experience and what are they looking for. And that really gave me a lot of insight on how, like how to develop and to design the software in the best way possible, that it then caters to all these needs and is friendly, it's easy to use, and customers and end users can really enjoy using it. Which is, I was very lucky to be involved in that. Not everyone would be in that. So that really shaped my engineering style, in that I'm not just working in a closed room where I'm like thinking of, the best engineering solution, but I'm really taking the end user into consideration when I'm doing it. I was like, okay, how would this affect the end user? Would this be clear for them to use this feature when we do it this way? Is there a better way to develop this that makes it get from A to B with the least amount of clicks? Um, and once I started going further up in my career in the leadership, I tried to kind of pass that on to my team. And I tried to kind of push them to be, I want you to attend that meeting with the customer. There is a customer issue now, and the support are handling it, the support team is handling it, but who wants to attend that meeting? Because when you hear customers either complaining about what's happening or requesting a new thing, when you hear it firsthand, it's better than someone kind of relaying the message. That gives everyone a lot of kind of insight into it. And I feel like this is like invaluable information that you can't, is very important for everyone to have. So I'm always trying to kind of nurture the team in that way. It's like, I want you to be in front of customers to see what is actually happening with them. So I would say, yeah, it's been really kind of great, because if I was in one of these, massive companies, I wouldn't have had that exposure. Um, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I would do it all over again, even though it was very hard and a lot of things to look after, but it's great.
Absolutely. It sounds as though, having sort of hands-on experience across the entire development lifecycle shaped your holistic view, particularly with balancing user needs, technical decisions and product delivery. So yeah, really, it was really good to hear. All right. So what is the strategic vision for Reveal Media over the next 3 to 5 years? And how does innovation factor into the roadmap?
I think for us, it's the idea of the evolving the product and the industries that we work in. As I touched upon earlier, is that we are getting into new markets where we didn't anticipate to get into. But the idea is that the camera is actually very useful in any environment where an employee is working with a member of the public. And it can be any industry. It doesn't have to be, like just the police. So this is where we think the future is going to go in, is any environment like that where an aggression can happen. Let's say, delivery drivers, um, uh, in hospitals, in anywhere where the employee didn't sign up for aggression as part of the job description, but they actually get that from the people to work with. Our cameras can be there and it can make an impact, positive impact. So this is where we see the cameras and the business evolving into. And I think with that, we are very lucky that think about it, we are putting a piece of technology that has a camera, has a mic, so it can hear and see, and it also has a lot of other sensors. We are putting it on everyone's clothes. So, and it's with them a lot when they're working. So the question is, what can we do with these sensors that can help them in their work, that would, give them a better work experience, be good for their health and well-being, prevent more abuse, and even stuff like what if it detects dangers, detects health and safety issues, like detects like spillage on the floor that someone it might be a hazard, or if someone actually falls, someone is slips or it was knocked out. What if all these? What if we can check stock that it's below levels, and we given reason alarm that we need to increase the stocks on the shelf. Any of these things, all like, we can think about, and this is where we're working with using AI in vision and sound and with the sensors that we can help the person who's wearing it in these environments to add more value. It's not just a recording camera anymore. It's a device that's capable of so much more. This is where we're seeing that's the next evolution in the body cameras.
Absolutely. It sounds as though that, at Reveal, you're evolving your cameras into sort of a smart AI-powered platform whilst focusing on real-time insights, automation, seamless integration, which is obviously needed in order to provide, the end result, which is, safety and mitigating risk for those individuals in the various sectors. And yeah, it'd be great to see, how your journey progresses with that sort of new technology landscape, as you've just described. All right. So you've mentioned your interest in AI and whether it be large scale systems. What fascinates you mostly about these areas, and how do you seem to transform technology with regards to your technology stacks that's needed in the industry with regards to best practices?
So yeah, I was kind of when you read about these things and when you see how the big tech companies kind of changed the standards or shaped the standards. Like in the past, no, like say before this, the Facebook, Google's, all of these companies came around. Obviously, the computers were there, internet was there, but there were the people who were creating the tools and the technology, and people and the companies then use them to deploy their applications or like their websites and all of that. But when these kind of companies came around, they were running at a scale that we haven't seen before, like 1.5 billion logging into Facebook every day. That wasn't there, before that happened. Amazon selling, I don't know how many people log in and how many things they sell every day. So I'm really fascinated by that these companies basically looked at what is the technology that's available and they evolved it to meet their standards. So Facebook, for instance, when you have all these users and everyone can like things and post things and all of that. And you have the page in front of you. You want it to update in real time that someone liked something and all of that. The current or the at the time, the current technology wasn't going to be able to do that. It was had to re-render the whole page every time. So then they came up with React, which like so that they can update only specific parts of the page to show what happened. Uh, all these interactions and between the users and the relationships between them, billions of relationships. The normal standard database would not handle that, so they came up with graph databases. And the beauty of that is that they came up with these things, but then they made all of that open source to help the whole community. So new businesses, small companies can now make use of the things that these big companies created, basically, to help them in their environment, and they became the standard that everyone now follows. We were, many years ago, we were using the normal HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Now we are using React to develop the front end side because it gives a better user experience. So in some ways, like if these companies weren't there, we wouldn't this technology wouldn't have evolved. AWS was all created because of the Amazon's demands and all of that. Um, uh, like so it's really interesting to hear these stories, to see how few, basically a handful of companies, they basically shape the industry or shape the standards now. And it's just made everyone better. Like I tell you an example. Back in the day, when you used to go to a browser and you type in an address and your internet is not good or something, it will show you, oh, page is offline or you're offline or something like that. And you just stay there, you wait until you're back online, and then you refresh the page. And that was the standard, that was the normal user experience. That was accepted. Nowadays, if you notice, if you do that on Chrome and then you go back online, the page will refresh itself automatically and it will show you. Even on your phone, it will give you a notification now the page is ready for review. So they've changed the user experience. Now this is the standard. If you deliver anything less than that, people will be like, oh, why is it not refreshing automatically? Why is it not bringing me the stuff after I came back online? So they kind of redefined how we see things, how we interact with products. And I see that fascinating, to be honest, how it's now them leading that, not I don't know how it used to be in the past, but but it wasn't companies, definitely. It wasn't businesses doing that. So I feel that is quite interesting. And obviously like from that is the whole revolution of AI, um, which I have I don't know, maybe an interesting take on it. I love AI and I use the tools every day, but we need to be a bit cautious when you are using it because I use, for instance, ChatGPT a lot in my when we're working on developing things. And I would say maybe half the time it's hallucinating. It's telling you about options or code or something that doesn't exist, that syntax that is wrong, or you go and I want to do this in the cloud. Is like, oh, go press this and that, and it's like that doesn't exist. I'm sorry. So if you give someone who doesn't know anything about, let's say, programming and tell him, okay, use that tool to create a software, he's not going to go anywhere. He might create the first draft, but if anything goes wrong with that, he'd be stuck.
Mm.
So you still need the people who really understand, the thing. When I ask a question, I almost know half the answer, so then I can verify if the answer is right or wrong. In in law, like there are cases where some lawyers use case like ChatGPT to create some kind of statements for them, and it hallucinated and made up cases in the past as a reference, which didn't really even exist. So you have to be, but if you're not a good lawyer and if you don't know, the cases and the history, you would use them and think they're right. So you have to have some kind of experience. And I think this is the balance. It's a great
Absolutely.
tool, but you need to have some experience when you're using it in the field that you're using it in. And it's just a tool. It's a tool at the end of the day. It's like, yes, it will make some people um, their jobs be redundant, but it definitely will create other jobs. Back in the day, like hundreds of years, not hundreds, maybe a couple of hundred years ago, before electricity, there's oil lamps in the street that basically they light up the streets. And someone every day probably come in and fill the oil in there so they keep lighting. That job doesn't exist anymore because electricity came in. So it's these kind of like computers. I'm sure they replaced a lot of jobs as well. Um, so I think it's just another tool that it will replace things, but it will make new jobs, and you need to understand when to use it and how to use it. It's not You can't just use it without any background experience in the field that you're asking it in. I don't believe that. Maybe in the future when it evolves a bit more, but right now in 2025 as we speak, it needs a bit of background knowledge behind it when you're using it. I don't know
Absolutely.
what do you.
Yeah, yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree, Alan. I think from what you've shared, it's really about, the excitement around AI's ability to drive, whether it be real-time decisions, by looking at complexity and efficiency gains of scalable system design, etc. So, whether it be for application systems or, particularly in your space, the design of your cameras, then there's a lot to be gained from that. Amazing, Alan, amazing. Now let's switch to our leadership question, which is, you know, in your environment, how would you describe your leadership style, and what approaches do you take to build and sustain high-performing engineering teams?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? How we can build a team that is high performing and delivers. Um, I'd like to kind of, let's say, put into 5 points. Um, One of the first important thing is you need to hire the right people for your environment, with the right experience, with the right knowledge. I personally prefer people who are dynamic, who are active, who have a can-do attitude, who are you can see from their experience, even if they don't have much of it, but you can see that they know how to grow and learn new things and they kind of adapt to new technologies and new environments. I prefer that to someone who's kind of been working with the same thing for many, many years, even if they know a lot about it. But there will always be a gap in something that they don't know, and they don't have the skill to know how to learn new things. So I prefer, like, if someone has 80 or 90% knowledge about something of the thing we're working on, but they haven't learned anything new in a while, then when things evolve, and they will evolve, as you know, things move on very quickly in our industry, they will be left behind. But I prefer someone who's like 50, 60% and who's like, I've learned this, I've learned that, and I've, self-taught this part, learned about this. So you know that if things change in circumstances, they will be able to evolve with you. So getting the right people, obviously that's the first thing you need to make sure of. When I'm working with my team, I like to empower them a lot. I like to give them responsibility on their areas or on the tasks that they're working on. I feel like this is the best way to kind of motivate them and make sure the work is delivered properly because they will feel like it's their name on the line. They have a stake in it and they want to deliver it in the best way possible because they now own that part. So I'd like to kind of make them get involved in the decisions, get them involved in the design of it, how it's going to work. What do you think about this? Hear them out and see what they have to say, and let them kind of take the lead on that. This have really delivered amazing results because then they would always be like, I want to make it better. I want to make it, it's my thing. When I'm delivering it to the business, if anything goes wrong, it's my name on the line. So they always feel like it's their baby. Um, and from that, you want to make sure that or encourage collaboration and communication between the team. You have to have an open team. There is no blame culture. Everyone is trying their best. Yes, mistakes will happen, that's for sure. But how can we learn from the mistakes? How can we collaborate together to help each other reduce these mistakes? Whether it's peer reviews or even communicating before you start working on something. I like to encourage a lot before we start, like say, develop something. I like to get the developers and the testers talking to each other about it to see from the two different perspectives. Because the developer always they have a very good or optimistic view of the world. It's like, yeah, it's gonna work. The user is gonna do this, 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 and it's gonna work. The testers are on the opposite side. They were like, how can it go wrong? So if you get them talking at the beginning, then the tester will tell the developer, oh, by the way, make sure you handle this case. Think about, what if the user does this? What if the user does that? And then the developer takes that into consideration. So then when they are developing it, they make sure they cover basically all their bases, cover all these blind spots. And that makes the feature itself more robust. And then when it's passed to testing, the testing will be smoother, less bugs will be found because at the beginning, they said the test cases, they said the parameters that it should be working under. And to be honest, more often than not, when they have this conversation, they come back to me and the product manager and they say, oh, we've thought of this scenario that wasn't in the description. What do you think should happen in this space? What should we do about it? So it's good to have that conversation early on to make sure everything is clear. Um, and you also want to make sure that you encourage their innovation and their learning. If they stop learning or if they just work with the thing that they're working on all the time, they will get bored, first of all, and they probably will leave you because they want to work with the latest thing. But also you will be left behind from the kind of industry. So it will be harder for you to hire new people who are working with the new technology if you're always using the old technology. So always encourage kind of like putting some time aside to learn about new things. And as I said, like one of the things that my team learned on the job and they started using was React. So we started doing like Fridays. You you have take half a day in that and learn about new thing, and they started learning about React. And then they started using, and all the new products that we develop now, deliver now, are in React. So you got to keep them learning, you got to keep them hungry, you got to keep them kind of going and growing. And I think that the final point, and I think it's the most important point, is have a clear objective and a clear target. I remember one of the best deliverables we've had was um, we had a customer requirement that we needed to release a new version of the software with some new features, and we had 8 weeks to do it. There was a lot of things to do. So I sat with the team and I said, guys, this is the requirement from the business. It's a very big deal for us, for the business. So we need to deliver that. What can we do to deliver this? And very quickly they started arranging themselves and organizing the work and breaking it down to, okay, it's 8 weeks. What are we going to do in week one, week two, week three? It was very targeted work, and they were very enthusiastic about it. That they basically everything they got they work together. You have holidays at this time. Let's work around that. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about? And there was a lot of energy. You can feel, they're very like motivated. Because they can see the finish line. It's not that far away, and they can see what the reward is at the finish line, what it's gonna mean for the business, and they can work through it. And it was amazing. It was very like it went very smoothly. The 8 weeks went like as we planned, which is very rarely happens, but because it was a very good plan, we went through it. We delivered on time. We delivered to the customer. We won the deal, the contract with the customer. It was brilliant. And I think this is where I think probably every team works in the best, in the highest performance is when you have a clear, defined time limited target. As long as you have kind of like you work in these kind of chunks of limit of um, short term kind of plan and target, it's easier. It's like imagine, John, I told you, I want you to run a marathon in 3 years. Put a plan for that. You will, it's a very long time, like you will lose track of what you're doing. It's very hard to plan for such 3 years. But if I tell you, I want you to run 5K in 8 weeks, even though it's a much lesser target, it's 5K instead of a marathon, but it's because it's very short time. You can see it with your own eyes. You can see what 8 weeks. You can clearly plan how am I going to train for the 8 weeks and all of that. Actually, you would have better results by the end of 8 weeks than the marathon in 3 years. So it's similar approach. As long as you have clearly defined target with a reward or like what is the impact of delivering that on that time, I think the team would work in the best way and be very high performant.
Absolutely. It sounds as if you lead with trust, clarity, and support. So it's really about building teams that are empowered, resilient, and constantly improving. So yeah, I completely agree. And also, obviously, the analogy you just shared, in essence, having an agile team that's able to deliver, whether it be feature development in sprints, especially when you might have to, how can I say it, have more workload put on top of you to work on, if I can say that. It's really important that you have the right team that's able to adapt and agile in their approach. So yeah, completely agree. Okay, so my final question is, looking back over your career, who has been or who has influenced you or been a mentor to you? And what was the most valuable lesson they imparted and shared with you, if you can share?
I would say my CEO. He's been kind of my mentor. As I said, I joined at a kind of relatively young age, so I need a bit of guidance at the beginning. I think he taught me a lot about thinking from a customer's point of view and the end user. How would they see that? How would they interact with that? But I think the most important lesson that I've learned from him is resilience and perseverance. A lot of the times when things get hard or things take a long time, and it keeps, let's say, send emails and it don't get responses, or you're chasing something, it, sometimes you feel like I'm gonna give up. It's too much. It's too much happening. It's a lot of things, or it's a lot of hard work. But I've learned from him that like keep going. You're almost there. Don't give up now. Uh, just keep kind of pushing, 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 you'll get there in the end. And this is what really kind of separates some people from the other, is that some people give up half the way, but having that perseverance, that resilience, that willpower to keep going, um, this is what gets you there, and this is what makes the difference. So I really kind of took me a while to learn that, but that has been one of the big things that I've learned and made a difference in my career.
Amazing. Sounds as if you've got a very influential mentor there with your CEO. And it sounds as though that he's been able to, whether it be, enable you to stay calm under pressure, possibly. And as you said, keep going, and always driving for progress, whether it be in complex situations. So, Al, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you and learning more about your extensive background and your time at Reveal Media. From what you've shared, it seems as though that you are a people first person, and you provide that approach to engineering leadership. And at Reveal Media, you've shared transition from AI driven platforms that enhances frontline operations within the, security cameras that you've referred to. And also you've got, extensive experience, whether it be in that product lifecycle environment, whether it be with passion. Obviously, you've got a lot of passion there, which we've learned and heard about, and also your ability to scale technology. And also, we just recently just shared the mentorship route led by your CEO, which is a philosophy that sounds as though it's driven and delivering real world impacts with your engagement and time at with your media. But let me hand over to you, please, and let you have the final words, if that's okay.
Thank you for that. I would say, not sure what you want me to talk about and then the final word, but I would say it's well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, John, and it's great to kind of get these opportunities where I can share my experience and share some of the things that I feel like it would be amazing to have in from my point of view at least in the different work environments. I think we need to kind of, as long as we get the priorities right, we are, yes, we're working in a business, but the business are made of people. It's about getting people to enjoy their work and empowering them. If everyone in the workplace enjoys what they're doing and feel like they are heard, they are appreciated, they have a bit of ownership and stake in what's happening, you sure they're going to deliver the best work, and be sure that your business is going to be the best, because they feel like they have a stake in that. They want to make things that they are going to be proud of, that they will feel like they're putting their heart into it. When you win a contract, you feel that they are as happy as if they scored a goal in the final of the World Cup or something like that. So getting your people to be the team to be with you on the journey, to empower them and get them to feel like this is their thing as well as much as yours, I feel like it's the most important thing. Everything else after that, technology, tools, all of that, these are just means to an end. But if you don't have the people with you to help you to get there, you can have the best tools in the world, but if the team isn't motivated enough and willing to get you there, you're not gonna get there.
Yeah, 100% and well said. I had absolutely agree. And, many have said exactly the same. So it's about your team and it's about having them on board on your journey. Well, Al, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and we look forward to following your career at Real Media and everything else that you're doing within that space and the technology space. So thank you once again, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.